Now to that breaking news on the humanitarian crisis on our southern border. White House now asking Congress for billions in emergency funding to deal with the record surge of unaccompanied children from Central America and for the legal power to deport those children more quickly. We'll hear from a mayor on the front lines in a moment after this report from ABC's Jim Avila.
It's a double-barreled breach of the southwest border. Waves of unaccompanied children, 52,000 of them so far, and at the same time, moms from Central America hand-carrying their children across the border. Escaping violence at home, these groups exploit legal loopholes in American border security, a humanitarian crisis that is actually caused by U.S. law, frustrating as that may be to border states.
We believe in the rule of law, and dang it, the federal government has got a job to do.
So here's the law, signed in 2008 by President George W. Bush, a bill that passed Congress unanimously and says the children cannot be sent back. They must be held humanely until the courts release them to a suitable family member in this country. The Obama administration, as the president himself told George, has no choice.
We have to house these kids and take care of them until the machinery under current law allows us to send them back.
And now President Obama is requesting $2 billion in emergency funding from Congress to help deal with the crisis, along with expanded power for DHS to fast-track deportations and tougher penalties for smugglers. Homeland Security sources say currently more than 80% of these kids stay in the U.S. with either family or foster homes. Meanwhile, those moms flooding the border, there's no place to house them. So the Border Patrol just drops them at the local bus station to safely join relatives here across the country. ¿Adonde? Irving.
Orlando, Florida.
Memphis. They must promise to appear in immigration court, but no one will say how many ever do. DHS says it's rapidly expanding facilities, but until then, these are empty threats.
Do not send your children to the borders. If they do make it, they'll get sent back.
For This Week, Jim Avila, ABC News, McAllen, Texas.
And joining us now from the border crossing in McAllen, Texas, the mayor of McAllen, Jim Darling. Mayor, thank you so much for joining us this morning. You've seen this new request from the White House. Will that do the job?
Good morning, George. Well, hopefully that funding will work. We don't think it's a crisis. We're doing our efforts here at the border to make sure it doesn't turn into a crisis.
What are you seeing on the ground right now?
Well, as I said, our bus station is kind of point zero. What happens as people are processed through border protection, Border Patrol, they're dropped off at the bus station. We found out a lot of times they have to wait overnight for their bus. They come, they only have the clothes that they have on their back. They haven't had proper hygiene for the last couple of weeks. They're hungry. There are a lot of little kids, and so what happened to us is the Catholic Church, the city of McAllen, other community entities got together and decided that we're not going to send them from our city in those conditions in providing for all those needed services.
And what do you think is behind this surge? You know, there's a great debate going on. Some say it is because many families down there believe that they come here, they're not going to get deported, and the amount of deportations has been just a fraction of those coming in. Others say it's children fleeing violence.
Well, I think it's a combination of that. You know, there's two categories. There's the unaccompanied children, which don't come to our bus station. They're handled by HHS. The others are moms and young kids that come across with the idea that if they make it here, they're going to be able to stay here. And so I think that's the rumor. And as far as I know, I don't know what the enforcement is or collecting all the families, but they have anywhere between, I've heard, 15 days to 60 to 90 days to appear before a court. And they're now, by that time, assimilated into that society, whatever city they go to. So I think the promise of being able to stay here is what's fostering the rumors that go on. Whether that happens or not, that's really up to the federal government to enforce.
Mayor, you say this isn't a crisis yet, but let's take a look at the front page of your local newspaper. It says the costs are really mounting for immigrant care. What kind of strain is this putting on McAllen?
Well, quite a bit. We've spent $70,000 so far. We expect to spend over $500,000 before the end of the year. The Catholic Charity and the other charitable organizations have spent about $150,000. They expect to spend almost $1 million before the end of the year. So it's not fair to our taxpayers. It's not fair to the charities to have to front those monies when really this is a federal situation. We have great volunteers here. I think the story is how our communities come together to provide for people in need. And we're worried about sustainability both from a standpoint of dollars, but also from community participation. We have doctors that volunteer to see the kids and the moms, and it's way too much to expect them to do that on any kind of a sustainable basis.
Okay, well, good luck with it all, Mayor. Thanks for joining us this morning.